Welcome to 10 Talks, real conversations with champions for champions. I'm your host, Emily Love.
And I'm Carlette Patterson, your head sports life coach. And the desired outcome of our Real Conversations for Champions with Champions is to share our passion for sports life coaching. We want to get you coached, and our purpose for training you for a life that you love is we want to connect you to what matters to you in your life and the power of being a champion in your own life. A champion life is a 10 life. Welcome to 10 Talks. Have you ever thought about having a coach for your life? Well, in sports, we're used to having coaches that are there for us to really help bring out the best in us, and why not do the same for our life? Today, we get to meet Melissa Luellen, who is a champion coach in the sports world, and she's also become one of our champion life coaches. She not only is one of our coaches, Melissa is also a D1 college golf coach. Prior to this position, she was a four-time All-American and NCAA champion as a player at the University of Tulsa. She led her team to an NCAA championship title. She then played professional golf for 14 years, with 11 being on the LPGA Tour. She won twice and served on the executive committee as the player representative. As a golf coach at Arizona State University, she led her team to an NCAA championship, 10 NCAA top 10 finishes, and 2 conference championships. She also coached 1 NCAA individual champion and 3 Pac-12 Golfers of the Year. Melissa was named Pac-12 Golf Coach of the Year 3 times. Team, welcome to really getting to hear what it's like for a coach to have a coach.
Hi, team. Welcome to the Life Training Academy. We are so excited to introduce you to Melissa Luellen. She graduated from our sports life coaching certification in January of 2016, and I was her sports life coach for years before that. So we have a great connectivity in terms of having it be about getting coached and being a coach and then becoming a sports life coach. So it's a great journey that we've been able to take, and we want to share this with you and really introduce the power of a coach having a coach. So, Melissa, welcome to the team. Let's hear a little bit about your story.
Hi, thank you, Carlette. Thank you, Emily. I'm thrilled to be here and so excited about sharing sport life coaching and how it's influenced me in my life. I met Carlette listening to her talk at a educational seminar, and was just kind of really taken with her and her story, your story, Carlette. And at the time I was coaching at Arizona State, and Charlie Turner Thorne is a coach and a female coach role model that I look up to. And I thought, gosh, if it's good enough for Charlie and her team, it's good enough for me. So that's what really piqued my interest, just to have that credibility. And we started on a journey, and I'd say we got to know each other through the coaching and just sharing the tools of sport life coaching and really understanding how Carlette came about with the inspiration for sport life coaching. It just really fascinated me. So I wanted to continue to learn more, and then decided to go through the certification. And then I had a big life change or job change, and it's really been helpful in that transition time and now moving forward to the present day.
Well, it's exciting to really anchor in the fact that we can have a coach when we're coaching, but we can also become a coach and be able to add this to your credential. You've been a D1 golf coach for many, many years. You can share that part of your story as well. And I just really value and respect the fact that you were able to say, I want to be better. And I think a lot of times when we get to the top of our career, staying there and being able to make sure that every day is a day that we can get better. Melissa, I love that you're such a lifelong learner and you have this passion and this spirit for, like, give me more, let me figure out how to get better. It's those little things that really add up to great success. And one of my favorite components that we introduced you to is just this 3-dimensional model. And So as a D1 golf coach, you were very, very good at your profession. And as a professional athlete, before you became a professional coach, you knew that it was all about sport. And that's that one-dimensional model team that so many of us as high achievers and people that have had the blessing of being able to achieve great success, it feels like it was the one dimension that really got us to be able to be the champions that we became. So to actually introduce, let's see if we can have a second and a third dimension. Sometimes it feels like you're taking your eye off the ball and you really, might not be able to achieve that success. So Melissa was great in her professional dimension for success. And then we introduced the personal dimension for significance, and Melissa was good at that. She certainly done some reps on that, had a great partner, and was really, working on who she was as Melissa for significance. And then we introduced this philanthropic component, really the beginning of sports philanthropy and the idea of giving hope. So Melissa, tell us a little bit about your experience in both your personal dimension when we introduced that, as well as your third dimension of philanthropic to give hope.
Well, it was so obvious to anybody looking on the outside who knew me that I was very one-dimensional and pretty awful at the other dimensions, really. It was, my professional is my security blanket. It was where, it's really where my passion lies as far as, coming into the coaching world as a coach's daughter, and after playing for so long and really not having any experience as a coach or being an assistant coach, I'm still continuing to feel like I'm learning about what I'm doing professionally. So that anytime I'm learning, I get excited. Personally, as a professional athlete, you're very forced to take care of yourself and only think about yourself and all the things that to do to become great at your profession. And so when I got out of professional golf, I was still geared into just thinking about myself. And all of a sudden I embarked on this job of taking care of 8 college-age young ladies. And I soon realized it was no longer about me. But that was really the beginning of my personal realization that I kind of stunk at this. And
the power of honesty, right?
Yeah.
One of our tools is truth. So
talk about the power of team. My team told me I was terrible at this. And then, even in relationships, it was just always like, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? And, honestly, I still am challenged with those things. Just because we were aware of it doesn't mean that we can, that we always make change right away. So these things definitely take time. And that's just, I guess maybe that's just part of the journey of my life. So just having that realization that I really needed to understand and learn how to be great to myself and personally and in my relationships. So that was an area that Carlette and I worked on, and just better understanding and then some steps to take. And then the philanthropic piece, oh my goodness, like that wasn't even on my horizon. I don't have time for that. That's just time. To me, that equaled time. Mm-hmm. And so Carlette really helped me understand that it's not always about time. It's not about money. I love to help others. But I was just overwhelmed that, gosh, where do I even fit this in? And so I kind of came up with some really, I guess, very simple concepts. We created just Give Hope cards, and giving hope is, just basically sharing your story with others. Just something simple. So the cards are something we do at our Give Hope dinner during the tournament that we created 2 years ago. And all the student athletes, we have 15 teams that play, and there's five players and 2 coaches from each team. And on the tables, we put the Give Hope cards. And then I ask everyone to write on the card something that's been inspirational to them, a quote, a story, a picture, a sketch, anything that they want to do. And our players on our team, they choose 3 different areas of of groups of people that we would want to send a message to or send hope to. So last year it was the military, children with cancer, and senior citizens. And so remember the first year, Carlette, that you happened to be in Auburn when we collected all the cards and we went through them and read them. And it was just the most beautiful thing.
Huge 10 moment by far.
Oh my gosh, just to hear what other people's thoughts were and what inspires, it's like we get so caught in our own little shell, and then we get opened up as to what other people have to say. That's such a simple thing on a piece of paper. I mean, it really filled me up. I mean, it was an amazing moment. And then we'll take a picture and post those cards and share them with the world on Instagram. And I've I did another dinner where my mother and I were honored, and it was a great thing that we were receiving an honor, but then we printed the Give Hope cards and 500 people that I didn't know and asked them to do the same thing. So, collected those cards, and just the messages from the world they're very inspirational.
Yeah, that is just incredible. I love that it's like a ripple in the pond. And so Carlette, not only did she start to coach you up, personally, and you have, achieved immense success in your professional career, but being able to take that idea of giving hope and put it in your hands, Melissa, and the ripple effect that have with the world, it gives me goosebumps because, you look at you being, rewarded, and you're taking an opportunity where you could bask in the glory and say, you know what, I'm going to take this one opportunity to give hope to the world. And then those 500 cards go out, and we have no idea the lasting impact of those cards on people's lives. And so I think that's super transformative. Not only for your life, but others' lives, for you to run with that Give Hope idea.
Well, after I've taken pictures of the cards, I just, put them all in one envelope, and I sent them to like the local area hospital for the kids with cancer, and then to the Veterans Association on campus, and just, just some of the letters back. I mean, it just made it all worthwhile. So but that was kind of the point, is that it was so simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, Carla, you and I started with that. I'll just, if I can make someone smile, just walking by them and smile at them, or hand out 3 compliments a day. I mean, that's giving hope. And it really dawned on me when I was giving. I had a recruit on campus, and we went to our student rec center, and just a pop-in quick tour. And the students there are just outstanding at giving the tours. And I made comment to the director, and I said, we realize that a lot of our students on campus, they can go through the whole day and no one will they don't talk to anybody. And no one even acknowledges them. So we train our tour guides to say hello and to greet them. And like, that's the only time someone may talk to them the whole day.
Wow.
I'm like, wow, that one really got me. And so just to say hello and make eye contact and smile, I mean, that's giving hope.
Melissa, I'd like to go back to the beginning. I know this is going to be a little bit of film for you to pull up because you've been with Carlette as a coach for a while, but you talked about, you saw Carlette, you have a mentor in Charlie Turner Thorne. So you saw that she had sports life coaching. But oftentimes we can all have moments like that where we're captivated by a motivational speech or someone, but you really took it to the next step, and you actually, reached out, got a hold of Carlette, and had the courage to make that interaction and then actually sign up to have a coach in your life. So if you can pull that film up, what was that, minus just, like you said, it was Charlie had it, so I kind of wanted it, but what was really that defining piece for you to take the courage to reach out to Carlette and actually have her as your coach? And what would you say to coaches, that kind of that, what do I want to call it? That call to action for why you believe it is so powerful, because I think that's where it lies, going, yeah, this is awesome, this is great, but you really took the next step to do it. So what's your plea to coaches to say, hey, this is why it works, this is what it did for me, and this is why I feel like every coach needs a coach in their life?
Great question. I probably came from the standpoint of being, even though I was in my mid to late 30s coaching, I was a new coach. a new sport coach because I've been a professional athlete for so many years. So I just felt like I had so much to make up for and so much to catch up on. And when I heard Carlette, I'm like, wow, this is something just intrigues me. I really couldn't even understand or describe what sport life coaching was. And that's, it's like you try to
Carlette.
explain it. Yeah, you try to explain it to someone,
Mm-hmm.
and it is a bit of a challenge. But what I can probably relate it to is that, I've been to educational seminars, and I, get kind of excited about the topic and what's happening, but then it kind of wanes away and it leaves you. But the consistency of, every 2 weeks having a call with Carlette, every 2 weeks she'd come in and talk with our team every 2 weeks. So the routine and the ritual, which is one of the greatest tools, and how we actually can function at a higher level, that's where I really felt the power is and lies. And sometimes, I try to cancel, and Carlette's like, nope, no, we can reschedule,
I
but you
love
can't
that.
cancel.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of that accountability
Mm-hmm.
part. And sometimes I don't feel like maybe I don't have a lot to talk about. Well, guess what? I usually end up taking up the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
it's just to keep you on point, to keep you focused, to go keep moving towards the end of the season. So it's just there's just the accountability, the repetition of keeping that enthusiasm that I felt in the beginning, because I have a huge tendency to get distracted and move on to something else. Well, the consistency keeps me in and keeps me moving forward rather than getting a bit distracted.
And Melissa, I just want to add to that the relationship component, because I think about, when you heard about it, sports life coaching was kind of this hard way to describe it, or you didn't really know exactly what it was. And so literally it comes from sports. So if we think about how we train athletes to be champions, we meet with them every day. We practice, practice, practice. We work with details. We go from good to great. I mean, we eat, sleep, and drink kind of how can we get better? How can we do this? And so coming from my background of being an athlete and then being a sport coach, it was like, why don't we train as intentionally for our life as we do in sport? And so that's really where the model came from, is we know how to train teams and athletes to be champions. We know that coaches usually were inside a champion model. And then as soon as they become a coach, all of a sudden, who's taking care of them? Who's coaching them up to stay with their rituals and routines and to train them to really be their very best? So really modeling, if it works for us to produce champion athletes, let's bring that model over and have it work with our coaches. And also, when you're working with your athletes to be champions, it's about that relationship that is the connectivity to a coach. You're not just reading a book and going out and practicing on your own. And that's what I hope you hear, team, is that we are in relationship with our clients, our coaches, whoever we have the honor of being able to coach. We want to show up in their life in 3 dimensions. And that's the beautiful part of our Live It to Give It model, is that we're not just showing up on Tuesday at 4 o'clock or every other week to kind of have a check-in. We're showing up day by day in your life with our tools, with the connectivity, and we're walking beside you in this game of life. And we're saying, what are your desired outcomes? What's your definition personally, professionally, philanthropically that you want to really achieve with your life? And then we go for it. So Melissa, really just share kind of the power of being in relationship with having a coach.
I mean, it just means more. I mean, that there is not only your guide, but your confidant, your support system, your cheerleader, keeps me in the right direction. I can't speak highly enough of the difference in my life that my coach has made at Carlette. And it's just been something that I really, really cherish. And, it's maybe it is a bit hard for me to describe, but the relationship that, just through the tools, just really kind of peeling back different layers, and knowing that I'm sharing my journey. And when I do this with our players, they're sharing their hearts, and you're actually getting to know them on different levels. And I say, my coach, if you develop relations with your athletes, then you can get so much more out of them. And it's completely true. If you know that you care about them as a person, and you care about their heart, and you care about what's going on in their lives without crossing that boundary. And the tools actually help you do that. It's like, one of my favorite tools is, how can I hold you accountable? Or another question is what's something that really irritates you? What's something that's what your pet peeve? So we, just sharing those things, and so everybody can really understand each other. And there's just so many little things that happen in the tools that just make a team work so much better.
I love that as we're talking about this, I can pull up the film of having a coach as well, Melissa. And I feel like what I hear you saying is that it's really special to be able to share your 3 dimensions, highs and lows, with a coach, right? So a lot of times, in our lives, it's like we can share personal information, or we can share professional, highs and lows with our, professional people and our people at our work or our coworkers or whatever. And then you go home and it kind of, you turn into you put your different hat on, and then you're sharing those sort of successes. But for me, with Carlette, having someone that you're able to share the highs and lows in every dimension, don't you feel like, Melissa, that's sort of the power, is that like you are a whole person, but she helps you define those dimensions and then shares the highs and lows within each, so that you're not just an athlete. You're not just a coach. The only thing that, matters is not the wins and losses in terms of your season. And I think that's when the world and our hearts can get really like battered, is when we don't, when we just live in that one dimension, and it's just everything we do, we live and we die by the way that the world defines success for us. As a coach, I'd love for you to speak on that, because coaches, I think you are at this level of expectation that is with you every day and every moment. You're relying on, teenagers to keep your job. And
That must be crazy.
all right. And it's all about winning. And so when you can be like, oh my goodness, I have a coach that doesn't just care about the wins today. They want me to be successful. And she absolutely cares about, right, you being successful in business, but she also cares about how you and your partner are doing, and how are you giving hope, and who's giving hope to you. And so, I mean, can you speak on that? Does that resonate with you? And how do you feel in terms of the pressure that how does having a coach help you with the pressure, Melissa, that you live with every day to win?
Well, I mean, every day it is, it's just this journey of like, how can we get better? And when I can really relate to, back when I was playing my sport for a living, and just being so one dimensional and only on the outcome. And, every day the score that I shot was in the newspaper, and everyone. And so to me, that was how others judged me. That's how I judged myself, was basically only on my performance. And so I got into, several years of hanging on, but not having great performance. Every once in a while having great performance. So like, I was in a good mood if I played good, and if I played bad, I was in a bad mood. I mean, oh my gosh, how exhausting is that?
It's a roller coaster.
But yeah, that is the reality. So much of, it could be like, how many sales did you make, and how much money did you make, and what's your car look like? And, it's like so many things that we get wrapped up into, that at the end of the day, my mom is aging, and my sister and I are taking care of her. And, I get to my, I think when I'm older, what's going to really matter? And, it's the people that are around you that really matter. And just those realizations are like, I can't even remember what I shot at that tournament. Who really cares? But when you're in the moment, it's really hard to see anything else. And I think that's just those, I really, really struggle with that. I think that was the thing that when I met Carlette, that was the significance, is that you are not your score. And that is that I matter as a person. I matter with what I feel. I matter, about other people around me. And then to take that into my profession with my players is, it yes, we want to win tournaments. Yes, we want you to shoot low scores. And I again, old habits are hard to break. And sometimes I have to remind myself that these kids are doing their best, and they've got their challenges. They've got their whole other world. They've got their, what are other people thinking about them? So sport life coaching is giving me the opportunity to, the pains that I felt and the joys that I felt, to hopefully educate them sooner than having to wait until their 30s and 40s to figure it out. So that's really the power of that was really my hook on sport life coaching, is that, wow, this is such a big part of my life and how much pain it's actually caused.
Melissa, I want to talk to just back to that relationship component. It just makes my heart just, be so full of love when I hear you talk about your love for your mom and taking care of her, and you've got a great partner, and just how supportive he is and how great he's been on this journey, and your administration and your coaches and your athletes, like you have this huge support team that is surrounded you and is for you. And we are honored to be on your support team and, play a small role in something so much bigger than ourselves. And just for you to be able to speak about how they support you from that perspective and how you support them and the energy that goes back and forth, and coming back to, we do have great support teams, but why have your own coach? And when I think about just, it can be really lonely at the top. And that loneliness can be isolating. And I know our coaches feel it, all the coaches that we, again, have the honor of coaching, but so do our athletes. As great as sport feels so much out there in social media and fans and, belonging to something, there's so much pressure to be able to win, to be able to make sure we represent the people that are supporting us with great honor. And there's a lot going on in our hearts of these, hearts of champions that want so much. And so kind of speak to just that loneliness, but also that pride and that desire to be really competitively great. But there's a struggle internally because, like you said, we're human and we're going to have good days and bad days. We're going to have days when we're playing better and sometimes the opponent plays better, but we're still waking up, this person that we are. And we want to start every day with being able to live it our best way. So what do you have for that, Melissa?
Wow. It's interesting being a head coach at a highly competitive conference, a highly competitive university, and that it is so much about the winning, and it's very isolating, because we put so much into our trade and wanting it so much, just because I am innately so competitive, and I cannot do it by myself. As much as people will give the head coach accolades, but it's so many more people. I absolutely cannot do it without a team around me. I have an assistant coach that is a rock star. I could not be here for 6 months and he'd be amazing. And our team would be in great shape. And that allows me to sleep really well at night. And then I have, my coach who just keeps it all in perspective and helps me navigate through. So that I cannot do it by myself. And if anybody thinks that they can, they're lying to themselves. And you're exhausting yourself. And, I was work, and I have to take care of myself, and understanding that and not feeling guilty about taking time away to take care of myself and the ones that I love. So just that the world is going to continue if I take a break. My team is going to function if I have to take a break because I've got a team around me and I allow that team to work the way they're supposed to work and honor them for what they do. And then I feel like I can seamlessly step back in because, have a really good foundation around that.
This segues us into the perfect next question that I'm dying for you to share with coaches in the world. But you talk about how, having a support team is definitely one of the ways that your team has benefited, right? Through sports life coaching. But give us some stories of how sports life coaching has helped improve performance or improved winning, or how has this really transformed your team? Because I think a lot of times we, especially as being super athletic and so driven, if it's like, well, is this going to help the bottom line? And it's crazy because it certainly does, even though you're looking at it from a different perspective, right? Like you said, when you love your players, that actually helps them improve and play better. So how has sports life coaching really helped you win? Because again, coaches, that's important, right? They're going to want someone on their support team that is going to potentially help them be more successful in their trade.
Well, there's so many facets here, but the time, the energy, and the emotions, those are big things for anyone, but big things for college athletes. And really taking time to have a session or an hour to just talk about their lives and how it really, it affects their sport, but we don't even talk about golf. Is really talking about how are you managing your time? How are you managing, your energy? What are you doing to recharge yourself? How much sleep are you getting? Huge topic. How are you in your personal relations outside of your sport? Just all the things that touch them. How are you handling the highs and the lows of, you know, being in a relationship? Someone breaks up with you. Something happens in your family. Just having to kind of live life on life's terms, but also preparing, giving them tools. I can't tell you how much time we talked about the cell phone, social media, you know, and as athletes and coaches, we truly are held to a higher standard. We're supposed to be perfect, and we're not perfect. And just acknowledging that, but also educating and helping them understand and not live behind the Snapchat, not living, the social media and the perfection. We have a couple kids on our team that are so afraid of missing out. I learned that acronym of FOMO, fear of missing out. And it's a real thing. And, because you're just struggling your connections with your relationships. And so there's just so much more behind the scenes. And that's why every university is hiring, people in the mental health. Sport life coaching, we're not counselors, we're not psychiatrists, but we're taking some of the day-to-day challenges of life and helping you navigate through it. And I think, and also the other part is, every session though with the sport life coaching with the team is that we talked about giving hope. And how do you give your teammates hope? And how do you support your teammates? And how can we give hope to somebody else? Because, it is much bigger than us. We're very fortunate to do what we do and travel the places that we do and wear the uniforms and represent. And it's an amazing opportunity. But, just thinking about others and planning around what messages does a team want to give and who do they want to give hope to? It's really, really important to create the culture. And I believe that sport life coaching really plays a huge part in creating the culture.
What I love about being able to bring sports life coaching into sport coaching is that all we're doing is just adding the life component. And it's funny that that's really what gets all of us up in the morning, but we tend to leave that out and keep it all about performing in our sport. And really what, Melissa, you and I and Em, what we talk about constantly in everything that we're doing is that we bring our person into everything. And, how we're feeling personally is how I get to show up. And if I don't feel that great, or if I'm struggling in my personal life, if I'm feeling disconnected, if I'm feeling like I don't have any friends, if I'm tired, if I've got if I'm anxious and have been worried about a lot of things, then I just can't show up and be that great champion that I want to be. I mean, no matter how much coaching I've had. So, team, what I want you to hear about sports life coaching is that we have absolutely zero to do with sport coaching. We leave that to our sport coaches. We know they are eating, sleeping, drinking, thinking sport performance 24/7, and they know their team and they know how to bring out the champions in them. We are as devoted to the life of a person as a sport coach is to the sport of a person. And that's an amazing combination to really ignite those two and to say, we're going to focus on research and studying and figuring out tools and how we can help you be great in your life, as intentionally as a sport coach is trying to figure out how they can be great in sport. And that's really that great combination, is that we're talking now so much about well-being and taking care of the whole person. And I just want to challenge all of us to make sure that you are taking great care of yourself, because that self is who's going on this journey with you. And if you're feeling good and your heart is full and you're feeling loved and connected, you're going to be able to be such a better friend or such a better partner, or just, whoever or wherever you show up. If you're feeling your best, you're able to give your best. And one performance barrier that shows up a lot for us in this well-being and really taking care of ourselves is rest and recovery. And Melissa, you were such a rookie at this when we started, 10 years ago, I think is how long we've been coaching together. And so when I said rest and recovery, that was another thing that you were just like, yeah, don't have time for that one either. So take us through your learning. That's one of our tools, team. You're going to notice that all of our workouts, when we get together, we're committed to handing tools to each one of our clients. Is that go out, we're going to hand you a tool, go practice, 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 and come back so we can really build this amazing life. So when I handed Melissa the tool of rest and recovery, she looked at it like, are you kidding me? What in the world do I do with this? So just take us through that journey, Melissa. I love your rest and recovery journey.
Oh, yes. Well, rest and recovery, it sounds like a pretty simple thing. The rest meant to me was sleep, which I soon learned that's not exactly what rest means. And recovery is, something that all athletes do or should do after a hard workout. You go, do your ice and massage and, stretching and all those different things. Well, what I learned from Carlette, that rest and recovery is, what do you do that gives you energy? Something away from your professional life that gives you energy. And I was at a big zero. And, I hadn't taken a vacation. I just, whenever I went recruiting, I would take my husband with me to a couple tournaments, and, I'd be recruiting and he'd be playing golf or something. But again, I wasn't getting any rest and recovery. And again, just being I felt like a late comer to the game. I was trying to play catch up. And so I just, vacations was something, days off. I mean, just didn't do it. And I didn't really take a lot of days off during, my professional life. That was probably part of my problem too.
Another performance barrier.
Another performance barrier. So I now have, when I talk to a new coach, or, I'm like, are you taking your vacation? And they're like, no, and I said, well, where would you like to go? And oh man, I thought about going on a cruise. Well, when are you booking it? Just like trying to get them to move forward, because I was exactly the same way. And I've learned that it's just, I come back such a better coach, such a better, more nicer to be around. Just really, really embrace my time and my vacations. and I don't feel guilty about it any longer. I used to really feel a lot of guilt of just taking time away. And when I started to reframe it as this is actually helping me be better, um, actually maybe spending time with my husband without having my phone or my computer on my lap, just really quality time. And so I started, when Carlette asked me, like, what are some of your hobbies? I'm like, I don't have any. I mean, I was pitiful. And so I was kind of not sure what I wanted to do, but it just kind of, once you start looking for something, they start to, it's called the reticular activating system, where, you want to go buy a car and you're looking at a Jeep, and all of a sudden you start seeing all these Jeeps all around you that have already been there. So now I'm looking for a hobby, and all of a sudden things started to pop up that, piqued my interest. And this thing called pickleball really piqued my interest. So I was actually playing, one of the rare times I'll play golf anymore. But I was playing with this lady, and I said, so how often do you play? And she goes, well, not near as much since I started playing pickleball. And I go, what is that? And so she told me about it. She said, look it up online. She goes, go to pickleballusa.com and it'll give you places in your area to play. So I followed her advice. And sure enough, 3 miles from my house was a place to play pickleball. I had no idea. And, it took a little courage. I'd never played, didn't even know what the paddle looked, I didn't even know what it looked like except for what I'd seen on video. And I just showed up and I said, hi, I'm Melissa and I'd like to learn how to play pickleball. And it's such an incredibly social game, and they were great. And I fell in love with it and started playing a couple times a week and got got better at it. And then, I played a couple little tournaments and got a medal. I was so proud to have my pickleball medal next to my golf trophy. And so that was really fun. I've had to, have a golfer's back, and so time to time, if I do play pickleball, sometimes I've tweaked my back. So now I'm on my next rest and recovery journey of really taking care of my back. And I've discovered Pilates, which I'm like absolutely in love with. So those two will work hand in hand. When my back gets a little bit stronger, I'll get back to the pickleball court.
So, team, what I want you to hear about this rest and recovery model is that it is not going home and sleeping all day or being really quiet or isolating. It's actually quite the opposite. We talk about kind of our rest and recovery metabolism, and what is it that, however you operate during the day, we want you to be able to operate the same way from a rest and recovery perspective. So usually our coaches and our athletes are very active. I mean, they spend their days exercising and working out and playing, and they have this competitive mind and spirit. So you can't just say, now go home and be completely quiet and still and rest and recover and don't do anything. Because when we say that, what happens is a huge amount of anxiety shows up. The minute you slow down, if you're a really active person, your brain keeps going because it already is set up and designed for that. So our tool, Rest and Recovery, is all about you doing in your rest and recovery something that brings you great joy. As Melissa said, it gives you great energy. That's how you figure out how you want to rest and recover. It should be something that is so fun you actually lose track of time. You're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I've been doing this for 3 hours or 2 hours. That's when we want your rest and recovery to actually be full engagement. You heard Melissa say when she's out playing pickleball, she's not thinking about golf, right? Because she's having fun, she's interacting, she's laughing, she's meeting new people, she's connected. That's the key to rest and recovery, is full engagement. It's fun. You're laughing, having a good time. You heard Melissa say competitively, that's who she is. So it's the fact that she could find rest and recovery that she got to compete in, that's her really honoring who she is. So the fun part is this week you can go out and practice that tool of rest and recovery. You heard Melissa talk about it. So important that you really take great care of yourselves. We're talking about this everywhere. You're hearing about it everywhere. But how do you do it? And so that's what we're passionate about with Sports Life Coaching, is really coaching you up on what you want to do. And you hear things, you say you want to change, you want to do things, but just as Melissa has shared, it's about getting a coach, getting connected, and doing the work day in and day out, practicing just like we do from a sports perspective. So before we end today, one thing that is really important, you've heard about giving hope. We're passionate about giving hope and learning, who gave you hope and all those fun components about just starting to think about that. So Melissa, in your life, who has given you hope? We've heard how well you're giving hope now. What about you?
Well, gosh, I mean, I think there's been so many people, but certainly my parents, just never putting a lot of pressure on me and telling me, if you work at something and you stay focused on it, then you can achieve great things. And my gosh, I mean, just how golf has played a huge role in my life and has led me to give other people hope I think is pretty cool. Carlette, you've given me a tremendous amount of hope, just, seeing things in different perspectives, new thinking, by going through the coach certification process, new skills, it just creates possibilities. And I feel that as a sport life coach that for many years, even beyond my college coaching career, I'm in year 20 now, and at some point in time in the future I will retire, but I'm really excited about still being able to be a coach and giving others hope, and using the tools that I've learned. I think that's what a coach does. When I'm recruiting and I talk to kids and I ask them, who got you started, and what are the things that your coach does for you? And they're like, well, they believe in me and they tell me that I can do it. And, or who, someone said, well, gosh, I think you could be really good at this. Just that one statement in a person's life is a game changer, because they didn't think they could do it themselves, or they never even thought about it. And when someone else points it out to you, that's why other people's statements are so powerful. That if someone else thinks that you can do something, then it creates a whole new way of looking at things. And so just those simple statements and what you say to other people, and those statements that people have said to me, has really formulated the possibilities and open up doors.
Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I'm inspired to go out today and to give hope by telling someone that I believe in them. Coach, thank you so much for this great workout.
So team, you've got a big week ahead of you. This week we're practicing giving hope, and I just love what Melissa said about how simple it is, just believing in a person and sharing that. Also, Melissa, how powerful that you say, it's somebody's words that really helped you become who you are. Team, be really aware of that and cautious, because sometimes our words can do the opposite. If they're not giving hope, they can crush a person just as powerfully as they can lift them up. And we want so much to be about giving hope to the world, being that encourager, being great for other people. And it starts with being great for ourselves, really honoring, respecting, having that self-compassion. And that starts with rest and recovery, and also just what matters to you, your relationships. So big week this week, practice, giving hope, rest and recovering, and just really going for what matters to you. So that's it for us. Go out and make it a 10-day. And thank you, Melissa. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget, tune in next week and head over to iTunes and Spotify and hit subscribe.
Remember, a championship life is a 10 life. You matter. Your life matters. Create a life that you love. Give hope to others, and be and choose nothing but 10s. Be you. The world needs you. Go to lifetrainingacademy.com.